The time I was most challenged during the pandemic for me and for my station was during the time when a lot of my members were getting sick. It was making sure that they had a place to stay if they didn't want to get their families sick, or making sure that, you know, my other members who were still working were able to cover the tours to keep ambulances in service. So it was a delicate balance in making sure that my members' health and emotional well-being, as well as still being able to run ambulances for the service out of my station.
For us, for a while, like, we couldn't take family members to the hospital. They couldn't be accepted into the hospital. So it was very difficult, and I could empathize with with my patients a little bit more than I used to, because, like, I've been isolated from my family, but it's still tough to go into someone's home and take their loved one away, and they're not going to spend that time with them in the hospital when they're scared and vulnerable, and also they don't know the outcome. And I don't know the outcome of it, but it was definitely tough, being that person. As much as they want to trust me to help them care for their family member, at the end of the day, I was still the one taking their family member from them, and that I don't know the outcome with a lot of them, which is tough.
It's traumatizing, both emotionally and mentally, and I will always live with that. And all my colleagues, all the people that I work with, they all live through that. And being able to try to be the same dad to my daughter, it's work, I don't want to. I hope my daughter or my son never has to see what I had to see during this pandemic, or they have to live through this.
The moment that stands out the most for me during that time was watching my members coming in so deflated and sad, you can basically say, because of the sheer amount of cardiac arrest. Being an emergency service, you're used to seeing death, you're used to taking care of patients at their worst, but the volume became so immense that it was hitting them psychologically, and just being there for them and helping them any which way when they would come back to the station to kind of cheer them up, making sure they were taken care of, went a long way with the members at my station. One of the hardest jobs that I did during the pandemic was a cardiac arrest, and what stuck out to me about this job was that there was a crew there prior, and unfortunately, it was a family that had already lost someone the day before. So they had 2 losses within a matter of, I can say, about 24 hours. And unfortunately, I wish it was something that I could say was a rare occasion during COVID, but it wasn't. A lot of people lost family members one after the other, and it took a huge emotional toll on me, and that's why it stuck with me.
I lost a lot of people, a lot of friends during this pandemic, and it taught me that don't take any day for granted.
No one calls us for fun. They call us because there's something going on and they don't know what to do, or they don't know how to fix the situation. And so I get joy out of going to work and being the person that responds to them to help them, no matter how small or large the task is. The pandemic, when it started, it was worrisome. People didn't know what was going on, but for me and a lot of my colleagues, that's just part of the job, and there's no other place I would have rather been than right in the middle of it in New York City at the peak of it.
I enjoy helping people in need. It's always been my nature, and I try to pass that forward with my members and my children.
We're going into somebody's worst nightmare, and it's my job to make them feel at ease and do what I need to do.
The validation I get from my coworkers day to day, if we have a good job and someone does a good job, someone giving you kudos for that,
my daughter Annabelle. She would make me feel like I meant something to. My daughter made me feel like I'm needed in this world, and needed in this life. Every time I see her, she makes me smile. She makes me happy, and with that positivity, you know, I can relay that to all the patients that, you know, I took care of. You know, without her, I would have not been able to do, honestly, the work that I had to do during this pandemic.
The most essential people to me during the pandemic was my coworkers, my fellow EMTs and paramedics, my lieutenants, because those were, you know, some of the few people that I could really relate to during the tough times, and the few people that I could actually interact with face to face. You know, I would call family members and friends and try and talk to them about my day, but you know, I felt I didn't want to necessarily burden them with the stresses of what I was going through day to day. I didn't want them to have that on them as well. So, you know, I'd catch up with them and kind of keep it light. But for the most part, as my coworkers, day to day, we could, you know, talk about our days, hang out, and, you know, after work, sometimes, you know, shoot some pool and hang out, because those are the only people that we could really come in contact with. So, you know, certainly we've become much closer, a lot of us.
My family. My family was truly essential for me. My husband, I'm getting choked up. They kept me grounded, and they were the ones that, you know, you get up every morning for and make sure they were taken care of. So unfortunately, because of the pandemic, you know, my children were with my parents at the time, so I really counted on my husband and I to kind of keep things going. I definitely believe EMS made a difference. A lot of people in New York City realized how critical we are as a service, just because they didn't know who to really turn to. And when 911 would get called, it was us there helping them at their worst time. And that's what EMS is here for.
So I do believe EMS made a big difference during the pandemic, but I also think that the difference we were making a difference before the pandemic as well. And the pandemic really just brought to light the work that we're doing every day.
It's definitely going to have an impact. It definitely has had already an impact. Me as a person and in my career, it makes me realize how much I really want to be here and how much I continue wanting to help the communities I serve, and, you know, and teach members that are just coming in to appreciate and help them in every which way possible to realize that this is a career and it's what you make of it. And there's so much more to EMS other than just being in an ambulance and treating a patient. There's so many different avenues to learn and grow with this department.
I believe EMS has always been critical, even before the pandemic. I think the people that have needed our services and people who we've rendered care to can all attest to that. They've seen us work, they've seen us firsthand, and if we've helped you or a loved one or just a bystander on the street that you might have called for, I think all those people know. But to those who haven't seen or needed our services, luckily, they might not, you know fully what we do and get the credit where it's needed.
I cannot imagine being in a situation where you have a family member that needs help and you can't provide help for them as much as you want to, as much as you love them, but you can't do nothing about it, and when you grab that phone and you call 911, and you see these two individuals with all these bags and all the oxygen and everything like that, that's us. That's EMS. We're here to, make sure that you're father, your mother, your grandmother, your son, your daughter, your niece has another chance at life. And that's one thing I love about this job. You know, we're given that privilege, you know. We're given that privilege. I love my job. First off, I love my job. But at the same time, I know I've been given a privilege to enter somebody's home and to be able to give him or her a second chance at being happy, at living life. And for me, I feel content at that. And that's something that makes me want to wake up every morning and put on my uniform, because I know I do that.